right. If you're on top of the table, you get to do the dance.
Oh gosh. All right, starting the timer.
All right, all right, all right.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Football Amigos show. It's your boy Mide. As always, we have the three amigos here today. Amigo Ayo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's another wonderful day for the Arsenal.
Yes. They did play well this weekend. Lots to talk about with that. What about you, amigo Sam?
Top of the table, top of the world.
Of
Going into
course.
international excited, but we didn't do a lot of goal scoring. So you know me, I always have bots. Oh, by the way, some people are coming for me. By the way, some people that have
Really?
been watching the show.
What did they
Oh,
say? What did they say? What are amigo
sorry.
saying?
I'm hearing things like you don't believe so much in your team. I'm hearing things, and I'm like, hey, there's got to be that hard one. And I'm like, if you guys don't pay attention, even some of my thoughts can be controversial. It's 50% of the time is intentional. The remaining 50% is the way I feel about Harry Kane. That's the way I feel about him. Ain't nothing changing that. The way I feel about who else have I uh my defense, Liverpool defense. People say they're the best in the league right now. No, I still feel a little bit there could be some
Who said
improvement.
who said you had the best in the league?
I saw some of course the Arsenal man is gonna talk this time.
Oh god. How
Yeah.
many
But no,
clangers can we get from Allison and his central back before we start saying they're the best defender?
you're right. You're
How
right.
many times can they collide before you are the best
oh,
defense
oh,
in the
oh,
Premier
amigos,
League?
you just love the banter with
But
these
to be
three.
fair, I was listening to a post match review. They interview Anna Slot. They interview Virgil Van Dijk. They interview Cody Gapwell. And the lady was like, "You guys are the best." And Van Dijk was like, "Is that true?" Even Van Dijk himself was like, "Are you for real?" But no, hey amigo, I like the personal comment. But put your comment in the chat. Let us know how you think about this show. We want to keep improving. All right, back to you, Mide. How are you feeling?
Oh,
Zero
you know,
zero. What do
you
you
know,
think of that?
it's let's start with that. Week 8 reactions. We'll start with
Yes,
Manchester
sir.
United versus Aston Villa. They played on Sunday. The game ended 0-0. I don't even know where to start. I did watch the entire game. I honestly feel like when you have your entire board come to watch a game, it's either for two reasons. One, you are doing extremely well and they just love the football that your team is playing. They love the performance and the results they're showing, and they're just a fan. They're just there to enjoy the game. The other reason is if there's been a lot of scrutiny on that team based on performances not going well and a lot of feedback that is putting them under the microscope. You could clearly see today that they were all there and not really excited or enthusiastic about what they're seeing. And to me, that's a sign of things just not going well for that team. Now, I preface this. They did play better against Aston Villa versus Porto. They did. But not only did the defense play well, which I was very impressed with, and by the way, we were shocked with that selection once again. When you have Evans and Maguire starting in the defense, you know something is wrong. Now, they did play well, and Evans won man of the match, but that's not stable long term for that team. The biggest error today, the biggest problem is our offense. We only had two shots on goal. One of them was Rashford in the fourth minute of the game, and then the other one was Anthony towards the end of the game. Our our attacking side of the game just isn't good. I didn't see combinations. I didn't see off the ball runs. I didn't see give and goes. It just looked very lethargic. It looked to me that they're not doing it in training because if they are, you would see body language and player actions that will show that because it just comes naturally. So there's a lot of questions than answers at this point. I will tell you this personally, they are not going to let him go tomorrow or this week. No, it's not going to happen, especially because of the results against Porto 3-3 and not losing to Aston Villa, which, by the way, Aston Villa didn't play well. They didn't. It seems like, and I would love to hear your thoughts and Sam as well. It seems like all of the teams that were in Europe were very lethargic during the Premier League games. Arsenal had a blip, but of course, they overcame Southampton. Liverpool could only score one goal against Crystal Palace. But it seems to me that there were some lethargic performances, but again, good teams still won, right? From a United standpoint, I think it's time for him to move on. I think what would probably happen, they would not let him go this week. I don't think so. I think after the international break, there's going to be another 5 games before the next international break. That's going to be the determining factor of if he's going to stay long term or not. To him, if I was to see him face to face, I would tell him these 3 things. One, you have got to have a pattern of attack. You have got to play Bruno a little further back and play Ericsson as a 10. Or take Bruno out completely if he's not playing well. And then you have to push your wingers to be more productive. Go back to what Manchester United is known for doing. They go through the middle, they go through the wings. They combine passes, they cross into the box. They allow their right backs and left backs overlap the wingers in the second half, and that's the reason why it's brought us success. If you can do those 3 things and keep that team that way, and bring in Ahmad and Garnacho and bring in Rashford later on until he earns it, you will see a reaction. Play Bruno and Ugarte in midfield. Play Eriksen in 10. There will be a difference. That's all I can say right now. Love to hear your thoughts, Ayo, before we move on to Arsenal. I don't know if you watched the
The
United
game?
game, but what would you say?
Oh, I watched the game. I watched the game. I watched the Porto game too. Uh,
Of
so
course you did.
I have a lot to say about Man United. First of all, I mean they defended well. It was very admirable. They showed resiliency. You can argue that Aston Villa weren't as clinical or decisive when they entered the final third to create meaningful chances. But you could also say that some rugged and disciplined defending closed off passing lanes by by uh, by Man United, which has to count for something. I personally just see a team that is low on confidence and is playing to the level of a squad. Like I still like I feel that really really deeply. Like the Porto game, I was very disappointed with the mentality about just how fragile it was, but also the position they found themselves was also an aberration. So it was, almost feels like restoring the order by the time things changed. And so you look at a team like Aston Villa. I don't think Man United is there where they need to be to impose themselves on Aston Villa. Like it's just not gonna look fluid. It's gonna break up in the attack because Aston Villa really are. If they had a deeper squad, they should be fighting for the title. That's how good I rate them. And you've also had a ton of difficult games at the start. You've played Brighton, you've played Liverpool, you've played Aston Villa. Like these are not yes, they say, oh, this is the worst start in the history of Premier League, but also this is also a very difficult fixture list for Man United. You compare that to Liverpool, which for the most part have had a forgiving, what's it called, fixture list to begin with, and so they have to be. There has to be a balance in how we see this. I will say, I think the shape of Man United gets broken too easily, and we've known this from last season. That is the distances the defense keep from the midfield. There's always that pocket that opens up, which teams know to exploit, and I just think that's just the quality of personnel. you have to remain fit. It's clear Lissandro, either he's not fit or his head is not right from the Porto game and prior, uh, and De Ligt definitely is not fit. What's it called for the rigor? And then when you have Evans, you have uh, Lord, what's his name? Lord Maguire.
Maguire.
Yeah,
Yes.
last minutes Maguire, hero Maguire, Man United legend. You know,
No, I won't go that far, but he helped us.
name one section of the stadium after Maguire
I highly doubt that.
in the
Highly
defense.
doubt that.
You have to cede that distance.
Mhm.
And so I really do think because there's a level of coaching where it's like, oh, we're gonna coach, we're gonna coach, we're gonna coach. But there's also a level of quality where there's only so much you can get from a specific batch. That midfield is a serious problem. It is not balanced, it's not coherent, and there is just no clear combination of players that gives Man United some stability to build on. And that has to be figured out. Like Casemiro has his strengths, he has his weaknesses. Ugarte is not ready. Uh, we know your player Ericsson has his strengths, but he'll get run past very quick. His defensive ability is not there. Fernandez is a live wire. I don't know what's going on with him now. He definitely needs some rest. And Maino is not ready. And so when you have all these things happening in the midfield, because everything that's good about your team is from your midfield offensively. And so if that's not really in place, you're asking your wingers to do too much. You're asking your striker to do too much. Like it's just not going to come together, and they need to figure it out. And I do agree with you that I think they need to see what the team looks like without Fernandez. I I I personally I have an issue with him in terms of how he dictates play, the tempo. He only knows how to play one speed, which is turbo, and I don't think that's good because things become a basketball game if you can't slow the tempo down. However, he's way better than this regardless. Like he should be creating better chances. He should be doing much more, and I just think he's exhausted, physically, but most importantly, mentally exhausted. And you can see that mental frustration. You can see that mental reaction when he got the sent off against Porto. It was just a appalling lack of discipline. What's it called for the two chance, especially the second one. The second one was dangerous. Like he was lucky to just get a yellow because he didn't make contact. And so you see the team where it's like you gotta give him a rest, like tell him to fly away to I don't know to Dubai for like 3 weeks. Don't think about football and just go like spend time with his family and then come back later and then figure out a way to build up play because there's no confidence in Casemiro. He gets the ball too quickly. He gets pressed. Mino is just not ready. I like him as a player. I think he has a high ceiling. He's not just ready. And Ericsson is amazing, but he doesn't have the legs. In the Premier League, that's suicide. Like that's just and so it's a very difficult place where it's like damned if we do, like damned if we don't. Like I really don't think you bring a coach in and all he's going to do is sit back and counter, right? Which is a very thing Man United have been trying to leave
Mhm.
since Ferguson left. That's
Mhm.
all they're going to do is like sit back and counter. Solskjaer did it successfully when he tried to leave. Is what to leave that style of play is when he had issues. Ten Hag did it with some success in his first season. It's when he tried to leave that we've been having the issues. And so if you bring another coach in, you're just going to revert back to the mean, and it's almost like going back to the beginning. And I don't think Man United have going back to the beginning money. Mhm.
Yeah, they spent way more than they
Yeah,
should.
and
But
so it's a very very tricky place. I hope they can manage it. They seem competent, but I almost feel sorry for Ten Hag and I feel sorry for the players too because I think the institution has not just let down the what's it called the manager. I think the institution has let down the players as well because I think a lot of these players they would be doing a lot better in better teams. Like Garnacho has a high ceiling, Dallo has a high ceiling, Mino has what's it called a high ceiling. They really should be it should be developing at better teams. But that's neither here nor there. You know better as a fan. Yeah.
great insights, Ayo. Sam, I would love to hear your thoughts as well too.
a very good point, Aya. Very, very good point. As you were talking, and even when media was talking, quite a lot of things were flying around. But I want to pick it up from where Aya stopped. Honestly, Man United is whatever it is that is going on now. It's not only affecting the coach; it's affecting the players too. The players could be doing better, but one thing that happens when you fail so much is you start making ridiculous decisions. You want to be aggressive more. You want to, like we mentioned this in the last show. One directioner Fernandez knows one kind of game style, like just go, go, go. Like I'm glad he didn't get a red card, by the way, again in this game. And
Yeah.
honestly, one of the reasons why the board probably flew to Villa Park is probably, in addition to what you said, probably they got free tickets or
Highly
they
doubt
just wanted
that.
to make sure they just wanted to make sure Fernandez is not going to get a red card again this
Oh,
week.
Rashford doesn't get one. That was why he was booked off, amongst other reasons.
But no, going back to my thoughts. I think you have to be able to change the style of play. You have to be able to uh, honestly react to the direction of your opponents as well. In terms of overall menu, I think they should be thankful they got a draw because Aston Villa has been impressive. And for what is what, the last time Aston Villa was goalless at Villa Park was 2021. Man United should be thankful for the results that they have. I know it sounds crazy, but
Me, they say you should be grateful.
So that
I, I, I'm
that's
just
all.
curious.
Me, they
That-
say you should be in church right now. You should be
oh, I'm always praying for them. Trust me.
Man United, no red card today.
It's a damning indictment of the state of
There's a
affairs
1 point at Villa
we find
Park
ourselves in. It's yeah, yeah. It's really
against
sad, but
Aston Villa,
but
and you're right. Midday, these teams in the that played, they're exhausted. You can see it in their games. But that's not an excuse for Liverpool, by the way. But no, United needs to change something by December. If nothing change, if we don't have a better result going into the new year, we will be talking about possible United sitting between 15 and relegation. We don't want to see that, but something has to change. And let me tell you something. Ayo, I'll give me a second. We've talked about this on the show before. Games are won or decided by from the midfield now in this modern day Premier League. Even Leicester City, it's crazy. Look at what Wilfred Ndidi is doing. Look at what Skip is doing in the midfield. Man United just doesn't have the midfield figured out yet. Once we have that figured out, and I say we because I'm rooting for Man United. I don't want to see Man United fail, to be honest. When we say doing getting the midfield right, it honestly goes back to coaching Fernandez to be able to understand. Fernandez is I want to say the most talented player in the squad right now. The most talented player, and maybe yes, the most skillful player as well. And if he's approaching games with okay, all full speed, all go go go, let's just go be aggressive, that's not going to help them because they're not reacting to Villa Park. They're not reacting to the players out there. So you have to be able to control the tempo. But personally, I saw just a little bit of the clips. I think Man United should be thankful they play better than I thought. Not just because of the 0-0 goal line. They really came out showing. I saw that they had Maguire and Evans in defense. I saw that when I was like looking at the match preview. I saw the highlights after the game is finished. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm curious. I want to see the full game now. What happened? Evans and Maguire. Oh my goodness, this should be a 3-0. But hey, overall, be thankful for what you got.
Aya, you were gonna mention something about Sam Stott.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I agree first and foremost, but I was like, in terms of my United's performance, I do think that the fixture list has been a little bit unkind to them, and I do feel like as a more favorable fixture list comes out in the next 5 games, we might see a better a better situation.
result.
Yeah, but I do agree. I do agree. It is m- mine ended up in within a rock, between a rock and a hard place, and they have to figure out a way because this is one of those situations where you almost need a surgical scalpel
Hmm.
to understand how to make adjustments without everything unraveling. Because I feel like not just is this institution in a fragile place, but the team and the mentality is in a very, very fragile place. And so you have to have a way of solidifying and consolidating and not break. You put too much too soon, collapses. You what's it called? But you find ways to reinforce. And how Sam just mentioned that you had Evans and Maguire in your defense, and you didn't lose this game badly. That should show some level, not to satisfaction of fans, but some level of development in setup. That can only come, especially against a team like Aston Villa, in improvements in how the team is set up, in how the team defends, to account for the fact that it's absolutely no pace against one of the paciest teams and not be overrun. Uh, and and so because I see rays, I don't think they're enough to cover up just the disappointment of like based on expectation from the fans and the media. Media is actually not helping, and maybe even hierarchy. I think the hierarchy are more realistic. I think the fans and the media are where these teams should be as opposed to where they actually are. And I think the one thing I would say that I was a little bit disappointed with Ten Hag was the quality in his communication. I think he became very combative, and I really understand the frustration because even for Arsenal, for Arteta, whenever we had the draw against Man City, the entire like dark arts thing that started coming out of nowhere, and they're like, "You're doing the dark arts, you're doing the this and that." Like we're especially trying to be combative, or especially trying to be cheaters for for with for lack of a better word. And he navigated that perfectly. And we come back to this week, and no one's talking about it anymore. And I think Ten Hag has not been very good about like taking the controversy, neutralizing it, and moving on. The way he's been communicating has been feeding into it. And
Hmm.
I think today he did a much better job in his interview. And I think that's the biggest part I think of his improvement of understanding of not adjusting expectations, right? But speaking in a way where he's not giving anything. He's not throwing any red meat to what's it called to the media. He's not throwing any red meat to the even the fans. Just effective and competent communication, and I think they can weather the storm. But that's the only part I think he should do better. Other than that, we got to see because I think they can see the problems. I don't think they have the money or the personnel to address it adequately. Personally,
I personally think they can address it. And I like what you said about the coach reaction to interviews. I personally think he gets too defensive sometimes of the player, and it looks away from reality. I'm seeing a different coach now. It's okay to say this player could be better. It's okay to say we could do better in these areas. Don't be all positive even when you lost the game. So but I like what you said about unfairness, which I kind of am 50-50 on it, unfairness of the current schedule. The reason I said give the coach until December, give Man United as a whole, so fans, the media, give the Man United as a whole until December to reassess what our opinion is of Man United is, because then they have games that are, you know, not really too ridiculous, not playing against top flight, right? And let's see what they will do in that game. But again, midfield needs to improve. The forward needs to start scoring if you need to get back on the trail. Midday, any final thought before we switch to the other team? And I really want you to include this in your final thought. Are you satisfied with the 0-0?
No, no.
No, now
It's
it's satisfying in terms of based on performance, not based on reality. based not based on your desire. Everybody desires a Man United wins 5-0, right? But based on the performance of the game and the setup, is 1-0 a good
From what
line?
as a fan, there's an emotional connection to my response. I would say
Okay,
no, right? But from a coach's standpoint, I would say yes. I would say
okay.
yes because it looked to me that they didn't necessarily train on how to attack this week, but they definitely trained on how to defend this week. And one thing that I noticed that was actually very happy was Rashford was actually tracking back. He actually did that today. And it wasn't just him, it was all of them. What I noticed was they moved from a 4-2-3-1 when they had the ball to a 4-4-2 when they didn't have the ball. And they were pressing based on where the ball was. And that's why Aston Villa found it very difficult to drive the ball with the likes of Rogers and Ross Barkley in their midfield. They couldn't drive the ball at us as much. And when they tried to do like Leon Bailey, that's when Rashford got those fouls, which those fouls happen. I like that. He's tracking back, he's running back to help. I like that. So to me, that's a positive. The nil-nil, it's a positive, but that's all I can say.
Fair.
My fear is where we are on the table. That's my fear. We are
Wait
now
until
50.
December. Let's see where we are.
We'll
Let's see
see.
what the table looks like. You know.
Liverpool, Crystal Palace. We move on. Ayo, go
Before
ahead.
you go, I will say, after watching Tottenham, I
Yeah,
still hold,
Yes.
I still hold that if Fernandez did not get a red card, I still see Man United getting something from that game.
I did. I
Absolutely,
agree with you.
because
I
I
saw
because I
that.
felt that everyone was like 1-0, 1-0. I was like, no, their DNA is bottling.
It was so
Their
Spursy.
DNA is so ingrained. It's in their chest. You open their chest up. You open their heart. Inside is a bottle of Coca Cola, not the
You
one
can see
made from
you can
Mexico,
see London rivalry coming
made
out
of
here.
glass.
Amigos, this is the
Bottle,
level
bottle
of
FC.
rivalry we get between
Oh,
Arsenal and Tottenham.
Coca Cola should close all their plants and just go to Hotspur. Just bottles, just be
Yeah,
raining in
it
crates
wasn't. It was a little embarrassing
by the millions.
going from 2-0 to 3-2 against Brighton. It
That
was a bad.
was that was it. It's like
I fell
shout
for
out to
them.
Brighton. Shout out to Brighton. They are killing it. Yeah.
And again, another example from a coach's perspective, another example of when things are not going well in the first half, use your halftime to change the style, change personnel, and it make an effect on the game. Their coach is 32 years old, and he was brave enough to change it, and they won that game. That's
Wasn't
the
that
type.
like the
Go
sorry
ahead.
for interjecting. I think that was like the second time in his tenure
Yes,
that he's
yes, he's
come
done
back
that.
from
Yes, yes, yes. He is he
second or
that
third time,
I
yeah.
respect him a lot. And it's funny you say that because there was an interview with Danny Welbeck. He scored the third goal to win the game. Former Manchester United player, by the way, which he made
Still
a
in
joke.
this it feels like he's still like a
34
new
now.
guy. Yeah.
Right? He's playing like he's 26.
Something with
He made
Brighton. Every all these old guys just come rejuvenated. Go ahead.
I know he was having a conversation with Gary Neville on NBC Sports, and he made a joke about him coming over to Manchester, which it was like a slight indirect joke, but to like we just remind us that United need him as a striker, and trust me, we do, we actually do. Which it's crazy for me that I'm saying, but anyways, again, that's a coach that can identify where the issues are, change it in 15 minutes during his halftime, and make an effect in the team. He removed his left back Hadiogu because he wasn't playing well, put in Estupinian, power and speed, nullified them on the right side, their left side of the field, and then told them. And I literally, this is actually one of the ways I attack with my girls, one of the four ways. He actually told them to switch the play from right to left amongst those four attacking players. And what started to happen is they started to overload the box and started to cut back in. Like you could literally see the style of play in action. again, just very impressed. Shout outs to Brighton beating Spurs. It's going to be a fun week for media, how they banter Spurs. We move on. Liverpool Crystal Palace 1-0. Sam, that game was somewhat of a tough one. You all missed a lot of chances because I actually saw that game. Liverpool's goal, amigos, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know what you thought about that goal. That goal, to me, was one of the best team goals I have seen this season after the Chelsea Wolves one. This is the second highlight to that. You should go watch it. Sam, please recreate that moment for us.
Yes, you know what's funny because that's top of my list of my observation of the goal of the game. Excuse me. I think good pass from Costas. I know Costas to also be a one directional player. Just clear the ball and just shoot it out, shoot it out. It was a really that's called true pass, like from a defender to make that pass impressive. And Cody Gakpo not spending too much time on that ball was really, really good. If we were to be Diaz again, I like my guys, but I'm also critical of these players. Because hey, I want somebody to tell me how I'm doing, how I adjust to games, Do Luis Diaz, we want to hold the ball down, maybe try to do a little bit of dribbling. And what would happen? Chalaba would be in a better position to hold down Jota. So if you look at the goal, quick decision was what brought about the game. Costas got the ball, laid down the true pass. My man Gakpo just let it boom. Jota was far away from where he struck the ball, but somehow he got up there. He basically just overtook Chalobah and just literally just side foot. Really, really, really good team goal. I like that you called that out. And one thing that I also want to say is I like the rotation in that game. There was a little bit of change. We have Costas coming in, Cody Gakpo coming in. We have Jones as well. So we change in three different areas. Obviously became four as the game went on because Allison got injured, which is sad. But
Yeah, that was
thankfully, our substitution goalkeeper, which that was his first Premier League debut, was ready and step up to the plate. So overall, great team effort. Changes across the board. I saw it. I've been talking about changes all about Liverpool this season. So that was really, really good. By the way, Crystal Palace could have scored us. I have to be honest,
they had
several
chances.
times.
Mm-hmm.
Nketiah could have scored. Az,
He could have scored again. He needs to go to finishing school.
yeah. And yes, no, seriously. Shout out to Alisson as well. He saved us before he got injured. The new goalkeeper,
Mm-hmm.
impressive for him to step into the play on a day like that. The sad thing is we're still not scoring like that. We've been fortunate with the features that we had. The next 5, 6, 7 games will be interesting. So
Yes.
we really need those firepowers. We really need those goals coming through. We really need um we really need Salah to be more supportive of the other front men in the sense that there's some balls that you don't need to try to score. Just lay down so they can score. I've seen that in a couple of games. There's some passes that could have just been made in those boxes and just better decisions across the board. Overall, I'm thankful that we got that 1-0, one win from Crystal Palace. Of course, Crystal Palace is not in their best shape right now, but I'm thankful because they had a lot of chances. They didn't take it, and we finally we continue to stay on top of the table. Yeah. If I were to rate the game, I'll give it maybe an 8 in terms of just showing forth a lot of team play.
Those are good points. Aya, before we move to Arsenal, briefly, your thoughts about Crystal Palace and if they can even replicate what they did last season into the season. Because it seems to me that they are missing a lot of chances. And it's going to affect them long term if they don't change that.
Uh, Honestly, I think the litmus test for a team is always, can they create chances? So if conversion is your issue, that is a very good issue to be. If you can't create, that's when you're in trouble. That's when you almost have to rethink everything. When it's the case of them, is the fact that they're creating chances is a great thing. And like I was watching highlights from the Bundesliga.
Hmm.
Olise is a very decisive player.
Hmm.
And I think we underestimate just how decisive he is. He's incredible in decisiveness, and so I think they've lost a lot of that. And then when you think about what they have now, I think they just have to be patient. I still think it's a great finisher in Eze, if they just need to
Hmm.
work with him. And I still think their striker, the 28-year-old French guy,
Mateta.
Mateta,
Mateta.
I watched him during the Olympics. He's a fantastic player. I think he's a great player. He might not be, a 30 goal per season striker, but he can give you finishes. The question now is, if those two are not delivering, where else can the goals come from? And I think that's what they need to start like thinking about. If these are not the two people to arrive for these chances, can they make something happen with Edward? Can they make something happen with some deeper midfielders and see how that can play out? But I don't worry about them. I've stopped thinking about them in terms of Europe and that kind of stuff. I think that's gone. But I think they'll bounce back.
Okay. I hope so too. They're actually a fun team to watch.
Great. And if they suck, Wharton.
Yeah, you keep saying it. I mean, I
I'm
saw an
telling
article
you.
the other day. I saw the article the other day that United were they still have him on the list.
Yes.
I can see why. That's one of the reasons why I actually watched that whole game.
Mhm.
It was the first game on a Saturday morning, and I actually sat down. I was a little sleepy, but I still watched it, and I was impressed with what he did. Of course,
His
a lot of his
passing.
passes were amazing. There just wasn't enough end product after he gave the pass to those up front. So we'll see if that changes. Arsenal Southampton 3-1 was not what we thought about. Southampton scored first in the second half. Arsenal were sweating a little bit, but again, the quality, the finishing, the players, the tactics, it came alive again. I will say this though, Southampton need to learn if they ever find themselves in that situation where they score first, they need to stop passing from the back and lose the ball. Clear it at least for the first ten minutes after you score. Clear the ball out of the box, then
I can see
settle.
what they are trying to do. To be honest, you don't also want to get clamped
But against
by
a
the
national team
opponent.
that presses well, you like that's a
I think
disaster.
it's
we're,
dumb.
we're, we're, we're we're even better aerially. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
think
sir.
I think it's dumb, but I can also see that. Um, yes, I'm the guy that I always want to slow the game down when we're winning. Not just
Yeah.
because we want to beat the time, but
Or
you
keep
also
possession.
don't want, yeah, you don't want to start making bad decisions because you're nervous, because you want to be all, if you want to try to be all defensive against Man City, that's when they will score you 17-0, right? Play normal game, but that was just, nah, that was totally out of control. You've gone too far when you keep doing it the way they were doing it. Dumb. All right, back to you, Arsenal. By the way, I almost got the crystal ball prediction for that game, 3-0, but the game
Mm.
ended up. Your last prediction, Amigo. Hey, go find the last show, somewhere here,
When
somewhere
I
here.
when I was predicting the game, I did not envision whatever I saw. Don't give me Crystal Palace. I did not envision that at all. That was not the game I was envisioning.
It was very interesting. Ayo, what are your analysis from? Let's just focus on the performance from Arsenal. Was it because of
Uh,
the Europe game? But it just looked like a shadow of themselves. At least the first half.
well, I think personally, it wasn't so much the Euro game, but funny enough, it's how many injuries we have in the wingback rows. We were when we were buying Calafiori, we had Tomiyasu, we had Kibio is more of a center back, but we had Zinchenko, we had Timber, we had Ben White. You'd be like, oh, we're spoiled for options in terms of wingbacks. Then all of them just decided to get injured, and we're playing Partey, what's it called, as our right back, and that just really messed up our build up. It messed up our ball progression, and it just dampened our control on the game. And when we even considered when we conceded, it was actually from that dysfunction that was happening at that side as well. And I feel like, and if we are able to field a proper right back, the situation might have been different. But more importantly, I think what actually happened was he made way too many changes. So I think it's actually a level of underestimating Southampton, but just underestimating how fragile our chemistry was. And so by the time you pull out Martinelli, you pull out specifically Trossard, who has really stepped up. You bring in Jesus, Sterling, who Jesus is trying to find his feet. Sterling is trying to understand the team, and you push Hadvert back into a number 10 role, which is not his most effective role. We were arriving at a box at just insane regularity, but there was no chemistry to put it all together. And so we were snatching our shots, and there was a lot of good last ditch defending from Southampton. Let's not blame too much on that. And so after a while, like the game was so puzzling. It was if initially it was puzzling, it was puzzling for Southampton's ineptitude in defense, and then it became puzzling because of Arsenal's ineptitude in attack. And so the game just like got into a stalemate of like whose incompetence will like will make them pay. And they had a brilliant counter. That specific build up from the back was amazing. They scored the goal, and even as I saw that, because just the way Sterling slipped on the challenge to let that a chance build up, I was like, I've had enough. Like I don't care whether it's your fault or not. They got to go. And Arteta had that feeling, and he brought in Trossard and Martinelli, and particularly Trossard, because Trossard's partnership with Havertz is very strong, and Trossard became the number 10, and he allowed Havertz to actually be the striker. And once that happened, everything turned on the head. Saka had a great game. I think a big part of us doing well this season will be as a result of how consistent Saka is, but in particular, just how immense Havertz is going to be. Out of everything, my most lasting memory from the game was in the 93rd minute. They boot the ball forward. Havertz beats the defender to get the ball. The ball is going over the second defender. He lobs him, and then it's going back to the wing back. He gets the ball in front of him, and then he passes, and we continue the attack. And you just see a player that will fight for every position, but it's very very intelligent in how he does it, and he's starting to add that decisive edge. We were starting to get nervous, and it's like, oh my god, are we going to lose this game? 2 minutes later, bang, hit the bar into the net. What's it called? Service as usual. So I'm very proud of the team. I will say there is a big red mark over whether Jesus is still suitable to be part of Arsenal. And not because of his ability per se, because I think he might get back into form, but for his wages, what he's delivering is not commensurate. And I really do think he needs to lose his seat to someone on those wages who will be more impactful for the team. Sterling, I was impressed, but he likes to run into dead ends. He has that Modric
End product, yes.
Modric affliction. So hopefully we can tailor that out. But all in all, I was fine with him. The only thing I regret though was I do think that game would have gone a lot better if we started with Waneri. I really do think that this was the kind of game we could afford to have him in the midfield, and I think he would have shown something. Because I'm really excited for that kid. He's the natural successor to Odegaard.
Sam, your thoughts on the game before I give mine?
Very, very good. I like the coach, to be honest. I talk about this a lot. Make changes early enough so that you can tweak it. The new guys come in, they can, readjust. They can, when you put in players, you still have to readjust based on how they react to the game. And you can see substitution saved the day a lot for us now. And it also tells us that, okay, there's a thing with having Martinelli in games. I've never been a fan of Martinelli, but I'm slowly seeing it, especially with how Martinelli and Trossard is being used now. We have both of them in the games. In the past, you have that substitution going on, which Trossard never liked. But I really, really like the way Trossard is being impactful in the games. When he's shifting, sitting more into that midfield role, I really, really like it. So overall, good response from Arsenal.
There was something you mentioned, Ayo, about player and confidence. And as a coach, I'm starting to reflect on what I'm seeing from an Arsenal perspective, and even from a Liverpool perspective, and even from a Chelsea's perspective, and how it can impact United in a positive way. If you take a step back and look at why Havertz is doing well, he didn't do well in Chelsea. He didn't do well as much in Bundesliga, but it was what made him shine to get to where he is now is the confidence he gets from his coaches. And it seems to me that you see why Arsenal did not buy another striker to replace him up top because they gave him that vote of confidence. And I think that's the reason why he is doing it. Not only does he have that work ethic, he's actually very intelligent and he reads the game very well. He reminds me very much of Thomas Muller. He's not one to have speed, but he's very clever. He is. And I feel like Havertz has this thing in him where he knows how to adapt his game based on the defenders and their attributes. Because certain actions, again, I, and this is why I try to challenge myself. I try to watch players and see why they are effective or ineffective and the different factors that change that behavior around them. And I feel like Havertz does things sometimes that surprises me. But then again, I say to myself, no, he knows what he's doing because he's read those defenders. So the thing you mentioned about controlling the ball, finding out like with three defenders and then continue that play, that's what I feel like someone like Xerxes or maybe Xerxes, they just stay from there, should be doing. And that's why you wonder why Jota scores one goal a game because he has that ability. He's very unpredictable, but he also reads the game. Chelsea, they've given Jackson that vote of confidence. They didn't replace him by Nkunku. They kept him there and he's scoring. Solanke, to some extent, is the same thing. I might be seeing it wrongly, but if I'm trying to solve United's problem, maybe put Rashford up top, Garnacho and Ahmad beside him, and see what happens. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe just say, Rashford, don't worry about running back. Just stay up there, use your speed, combine and shoot. Maybe that's what we tell him. Make things simple because at some point you need to change something. If something isn't working, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Maybe that's what we need to do. Again, coaches and the environment have a vast effect on how players perform. Now, there's an expectation for them to do well, but they can only do what they are coached to do. As a coach, you need to enforce that confidence in them. Both of you, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I love everything you said, and especially the part about not buying a striker, and how that being a vote of confidence. Like I initially just saw it as what's it called? We weren't able to get who we wanted, but I also see it as there is a almost there's a trust Arteta has placed in him, and there's a trust the team has placed in him, especially starting with Odegaard. That's why people always like talk about him. I was like, he's one of the greatest captains we've had in years. Well, have put in Havertz to be like, just lead the line. We understand that you're brilliant, right? Just show it. Be more you. Is essentially what they're asking. We bought you to be you. Be more you. And it's a very very hard thing to make happen, but the player has to be capable of that, and that's which is kind of weird because like this is almost like a similar profile to what you think Ozil was,
Mm-hmm.
but Arteta like had a huge He did not like him at all. Yeah, but
Mm,
we're almost like accommodating what's it called, uh Havertz, and I think it's just the qualities players have. Whereas that
mhm.
Havertz has that industry as well as that intelligence to read the game. He knows where to be to reach. My one thing I want you to pay attention if you watch Arsenal is how effectively he gets the second ball whenever we
Yes.
go long. Just watch him. Just watch the game. They'll hit the ball. Something will happen. It doesn't even need to be an Arsenal player that what's it called that heads the ball. Havertz will get the second ball, like we almost without a fault. To be able to do that so regularly, he understands where the ball is going to be after a sequence of actions. That is an intelligence and a level that is admirable. And
He's three
so,
steps ahead.
sorry.
He's always 3 steps ahead. Jota is the same thing.
Same thing. So I'm surprised. I didn't expect this from Havertz at all. Arteta and after Havertz, I don't question Arteta anymore. But but I also think that sometimes in Man United, like I think of putting Rashford up front, and I think Rashford will drown. Mhm.
Because they don't create enough chances for him.
Yeah, and I think he can be bullied. I don't think he's as competitive in the air or in contact. Like I don't think he has that anticipation to the degree as I would like to occupy that space. Is I'm seeing a lot of players where if I say you be you, is the full expression of you worthy of this team?
Mm.
And not a lot of these players give me confidence in that. If that makes any.
No, it does. It does. And Sam, we'll go to you. Why do you think Jota is not just Arne Slot's first choice, but is also was also Jurgen Klopp's choice in that false nine role? And it seems to be that every time he plays, he always has one goal a game. Why is he so consistent at doing that well?
Yes, the answer is very, very simple.
Because
Uh,
sorry, not to cut you short,
yeah.
but obviously you have a number nine in Darwin Nunez, but he doesn't start. There has to be a reason why.
So again, the answer is let me quickly jump on the Darwin Nunes. Darwin Nunes is also a not in a negative way, guys. It's also like a one directional player. The reason why you have Jota scoring is because you don't just see him in one place. Like you guys both rightly said, you have to be able to read the game. You have to be able to anticipate passing, and you have to be able to slow down. Now, going back to what you initially said, Mede, the reason why I think Rashford up front would not work, it makes sense to have Rashford play in that format. When you need a striker up front and you say, I'm giving you all my confidence, among the three that they have, among the three that could possibly play that position, is it Oiland, Zerski? Rashford is better. I would put my money on Rashford playing that role among those three right now. However, it goes back to one of you mentioned this lack of creativity from the team. You can give a player confidence. If your midfield is not creative, if your midfield is one directional, you would not get the results you want. Now, going back to looking at Man City gives their boy the confidence. Holland.
Mm.
Everybody's always playing to Holland. Even my boy Foden that always want to score, that has good ability to find that little pocket. When he's on the game, I don't know, maybe what's his name? There's a coach named Pep. Maybe he
Mm-hmm.
tells them in game prep, like, just find Holland. Everybody find Holland. I don't know if he
In that
says that.
accent.
But reality is just let Holland do the thing. And guess what? This is where it's important to take note because Holland is not just a receiver of all the balls. Just like Jota, he receives, recreates, and guess what? He gets the results. Like how you said, Rashford can receive. There are two problems here. They are not producing enough. And when Rashford receives, I doubt what he will produce with the ball.
No, those are great insights, amigos. This is why we love this show. This is why you love this show. We can have these conversations about games and then tangent to a whole different topic. And there will be more of these with these other two people here that just have not just the love of the game, but the understanding of how to impact or change things in any team, regardless of the players they have. We move on. Ayer and Sam. Awesome, awesome. Amigos, thank you so much for your time today. We will be back as always with more content for you. It's always a pleasure to have the three amigos here. Thank you so much for your time. As always, stay positive. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you all soon.